This will be a very unique interview for a podcast here on Podbean. Definitely a new topic of discussion, something that hasn't been done before, so I'm really excited about it myself. There he goes. Welcome to the show, Troy. Feel free to call in, and I will get you added up here. Hello, can you hear me?
There we go.
Well, your voice is your voice is even deeper on this app than it is on TikTok. Wow, you might be better at this than me.
No, jeez. Hi, welcome to Smooth Sounds with Barry Manilow.
There you go. That works. Hell, sounds like you've done this before. TikTok's not that much different. You are just, it's kind of, you can't see anyone, but they can see you. So, there's a little bit of difference there, but it is interacting with your guests. But here it's through voice rather than through chat. But it looks like you have a friend in the chat room here already. Says that they're friends with you as well as follows you on TikTok, and they're very excited about you joining us.
Oh, that's awesome. I was hoping to get some people in.
Yeah. More will come as this show continues, which is normal. I was kind of reluctant about doing a New Year's Eve show. Never done a New Year's Eve show before. I didn't know if there'd be much of a turnout or not, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to be recording it anyway. So, it's something that I can put up on the website, and then, it can be available for everyone, even if they don't make it tonight. So that's the upside of that.
Hey, thank you for having me. This is so cool.
Yeah. I remember my first interview. I was equally as excited. Now, did I get all of that right? Now, you started off working as an iron worker, and then for some reason or another, which I'm sure that you'll go into, you had decided to stop doing so, and something had lit a fire up under your ass and made you decide to start riding the railway. Is that correct?
So it is correct, but you're missing a little bit in the middle
Sure.
there. And the only part you're missing is, I did iron working for 7 years out of the union in Boston, Local 7. And work dried up. I was out of work for about a year and a half, and I started doing bartending and software engineering. And I did that for damn near a decade. And that's what I was doing right before I came out.
And none of that was fulfilling, I take it?
So I was such a hardcore workaholic for so long that I didn't realize I was kind of like letting my life slip by. And when the pandemic happened, I lost my bartending job, and I was just doing software engineering, so I had a lot more time to myself. And that's when I had the realization, the epiphany that I wasn't having enough me time, so I'm going to go claim all that time back right now.
Now, there's something, was it like a lifelong dream or maybe fantasy that you'd had in the back of your mind that made you decide, hopping boxcars or train cars is what I want to do? Or was it literally just a spur of the moment thing? Did you throw a dart at a dart? What was it that made you decide, hey, I want to jump train cars? Please take us down that road.
I knew I was to do something big. I started doing a lot of through hiking and like bushcrafting and stuff like that, being out in nature and having more time to myself. I'd go out for 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes a month. And I knew I was to do something big, and I wanted to go see the country. I never left New England really my whole life except for here and there. I wasn't sure exactly what I was going to do. I figured I'd hitchhike, hike, and just figure it out as I went. And then I kind of stumbled upon he's kind of revered in the train rider community and outside of it, but Stove the Hobo, he passed away back in 2018, rest in peace. But I stumbled upon his YouTube channel and saw that people still actively rode freight trains today. And I was like, well, that sounds pretty awesome. I'm going to go check that out. Because it's something that a lot of people from other countries don't get either. It's kind of ingrained in our culture as Americans. Like all of my books growing up, cartoons, movies, there's always a hobo floating around somewhere, So when I saw the opportunity that I could actually do it today, I'm like, cool, I'll do a little bit of freight train riding and a lot of bit of like hitchhiking. And then I got on my first train. I'm like, no, I'm just going to ride trains across this goddamn country.
Yeah, I too remember it growing up watching it in cartoons, mostly for the most part. It was occasionally, I guess, spotlighted in, a movie or something like that. Or there was, but more so than anything, there's a lot of stereotype around it. Until I had stumbled across you, I thought it was an all but dead lifestyle. I'm sure, granted, I imagine that there's probably one or two here and there, but I mean, after listening to your story and then and sitting in on your lives over on TikTok and talking about all the other train hoppers that you've ran into and stuff, I could not believe how alive it is. I guess it's just something that we don't focus on anymore, and that's why we're not aware of it. But I mean, have you personally ran into or bumped into or met any other, train hoppers while you're out on your adventures?
Yeah, I mean, when I first started, I kind of just fumbled around for a month and like didn't catch any trains. I caught 2 in a month. And then other riders would like see me on like Facebook struggling or like look at my YouTube and see I was struggling, and they started reaching out to me and teaching me stuff. But when I'm on the road, I usually don't go to like high population areas for train riders. I try to, because I'm by myself. I need to be safe. But no matter where I go, I'll bump into another train rider or a group of them every 2 weeks, 3 weeks.
Wow, that's got to be exciting in itself. So you mentioned that there's like high population areas of them. So how would you put that then? Is there like communities, like small communities or groups, or are there known areas around the countries where, these people go, maybe camps they have in the wilderness or abandoned train yards? I mean, is there a place for them to meet up, or do you guys just, like you said, just bump into each other on occasion by accident?
So there's definitely the bumping into each other on occasion by accident. That happens most of the time for me. But there is like, as soon as it gets cold out, people are going to go down south. So, LA, Vegas, New Orleans, and some parts of Florida too will have high concentrations of just travelers in general. And that's where you'll find some other riders and stuff like that.
So during the migration season, then, if you will, you're more likely to bump into other train riders then.
Exactly. And that's why in the middle of the summer, I just went down to Louisiana to kind of get away from, the traveler community a little bit. I love other travelers, but like I said, I'm solo, so I got to be extra careful.
Sure.
But I do love when I'm walking into a new city and I bump into someone and we both see our giant bags. We both see the gallon of water in our hands, and we're both near a train yard. And the first thing we do, we kind of vet each other out. We talk for a moment. We exchange information on the train yard. If that goes well, we'll sit down and start pulling stuff out of our pack we don't need, and we start trading it to each other like an old school like barter system.
That is really cool. So you do get to the point then where you can eventually get good enough in spotting and recognizing one another.
Yeah, to an extent. And we all look a little different out here. There's all different subcultures that exist too, which I kind of like exist outside of for the most part. But yeah, you can always, if someone's near a train yard and they have a giant backpack, it's a good indication they're a rider.
Nice. Now, is it more common to be a loner such as yourself, or like the communities or small groups of people, is that more common?
So usually, unless it's like we call them road dogs when you travel with somebody. It's like a travel partner's called you a road dog. Usually you meet up for a week or two and then you guys go separate ways, so it's a very short-lived kind of interaction. But some of those interactions I've made lifetime long friends from. Like I talk to some of my road dogs that I've had. I talk to them every day.
I bet this can be bittersweet moments when you got to say goodbye after being by yourself, for weeks on end, and then meeting up with someone whom you've built a little bit of a bond with. When you go to say goodbye, knowing that it could be weeks before you see anyone else again, that you can have, an intellectual and meaningful conversation with. Those have got to be bittersweet moments in a way.
It definitely is. I always look for, the silver lining in most anything, but also like I love traveling alone because I don't need to do anything by committee. I don't need to put a vote in and figure out where we're going to be camping, where we're going next, what we're going to do for food. I kind of just do my own thing. The loneliness factor does kick in every once in a while, but I'm so busy during the day. Like, I do 2 or 3 hours of footage every day and I send that all to my editor for YouTube. And then I'm trying to edit my own TikToks and stuff like that, and then do the lives as well. And then I need some time for myself as well in between all that. And then whatever errands I need to do, mend gear, do laundry, whatever. So I stay pretty busy when I'm solo, but I also can focus on, getting all my recording done and stuff. So there's a little bit less distraction. So it definitely is bittersweet. It's nice to have company. It's nice to have that extra security, but also having someone with you raises your chances of getting caught exponentially,
Well, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. When you are with someone, I mean, are you more likely to get a decent night's sleep? You guys, sleep in shifts, one of you stays awake while the other one's sleeping, or is it, I mean, do you guys not trust each other to that degree? I mean, you're afraid of somebody stealing your equipment, or do you meet certain people that you have developed those types of trust levels with?
So two of my road dogs, I would trust them with my life. And you can kind of tell it's going to go well when I need something and they go out and find it and get it, or vice versa. If they need something, you're watching out for each other. You can sleep a little better in that situation. But I've definitely had travel partners that we're just going the same way at the same time. And when I'm sleeping, I got like my arms wrapped around the straps of my pack, stuff like that. Like you make it so it's harder to just grab my stuff and run. So it's definitely a trust issue, because if I ever lose my gear, me surviving goes down. The chances go down a lot if I don't have my equipment with me.
Sure. So you never really get a good sound night's sleep then, like you would if you were at home in your bed. I mean, you're kind of always sleeping with one eye at least halfway open.
Yeah, I mean, personally, what I do, especially once like fall hit, I'll do it with like as much as I can during the summertime and spring months, but I'll take a bunch of dead leaves. So whenever I'm doing a campsite, I rake up my campsite, and then I put all the leaves around my tarp or around where I'm sleeping. So if someone's going to step into that perimeter, I can hear it. That kind of like you develop an ear for that. So every time I hear leaves crinkle, I'll at least take a quick look.
That's pretty smart.
So it's little things you do out there. It works out for me. Someone suggested gift wrap once, and that gave me the idea. I'm like, well, instead of getting gift wrap and putting that around my campsite like a weirdo, I'll just do these dead leaves.
Or hide a bunch of aluminum cans underneath dead leaves. That would make a really loud noise for sure.
Yeah, that's smart. Actually, I might add that to the mix.
There you go. Well, I'm teaching you something. No, but everyone knows how noisy
and there's always empty beer cans.
Sure. And we all know how noisy it can be to step on an aluminum can. Well, you throw a few dozen of those randomly underneath some leaves. I mean, it doesn't matter if those leaves are wet or dried. I mean, it's going to make noise when stepping on those cans for sure.
Very true. Very
true.
It
looks like your friend in the chat likes that idea as well. I bet both of you are writing this down now. So. No,
we got George from Coffeeville in chat there. I was in Coffeeville for like 2 or 3 days trying to get a ride, and George came over and was awesome. Yeah, he talked to me and my road dog at the time for goddamn hours, just chilled with us.
Where is Coffeeville, may I ask?
It's in Oklahoma, just outside of Kansas. So South Coffeeville is Oklahoma. Then you get the Coffeeville a few miles away. It's in Kansas. Excuse me.
No, you're fine. Now you mentioned a few minutes ago about how you do a lot of walking, interacting with social media and stuff, which led me to a couple of other questions. One of the ones I'm assuming may have a shorter answer, but by all means you can make it as long as you'd like. But you had mentioned that like you'll be doing a lot of walking and stuff during the day. Now, do you have direction where you're going sometimes? Or, is it just random walking to kill time? Is it walking because you need to travel by foot to get to a different train yard to catch a different train? Is there a reason to the madness? And if there's, if there's anything of value there content wise, could you share that with us?
So you're right. Yes, to all of that. Sometimes I want to just go explore. So the typical way it's laid out is I go on a train, right? It gets me out of one city, brings me to another city. Now I'm in that city. I need to walk around to resupply. Gas stations are never near the train yard. Sometimes you got to walk 5 miles to get, supplies and stuff like that. So sometimes it's out of necessity. If I get caught in a train yard, I don't try to catch a train out of that yard again, because I got to think about the next rider. So if I get caught twice, they'll be the third one to get caught. Chances of them getting caught go up, high alert and all that. So if I get caught, I got to walk the hell out. I'll try to hitchhike. I'll put a sign on my back that says bad at travel in the direction I'm going in. I don't always get a ride. So sometimes I'll walk 10, 15 miles to the next yard. I did 45 miles out in Indiana because I got stuck in the middle of nowhere. The train terminated like 45 miles west of Fort Wayne, and I had to walk that entire 45 miles back. It took me like 3 days, and it was pretty grueling.
I think I was stuck in my vehicle.
I just want to go explore.
Yeah, I think I was stuck in my vehicle that train. In fact, the rumor has it to this day it's still sitting there blocking the roadway.
Yeah, sometimes they sit there for hours in the middle of a railroad crossing. You're like, hate to be one of the people waiting for that one.
Yeah, you mentioned too. You're always whenever. Well, I'm sure not always, but in your available time, when you don't have to, you'll be fully aware of your surroundings and stuff, that you're working with social media and stuff. You have a YouTube editor. I would imagine that the invent of social media has really been a blessing in many ways to people such as yourself that travel freely like you do. Whether you're a lifetime hitchhiker or train car hopper or just any way you can travel super tramp. The invent of social media has really opened up many doors for I guess your community and your lifestyle. Has there been any significant ways in which it has impacted you personally?
I mean, getting noticed on the street is kind of weird to me. Like getting noticed just walking down the street and having people yell my name.
You're a celebrity.
Or like just come over and talk to me. They'd be like, yeah, hey, I saw you on TikTok. I'm like, why? But it's so cool that I get to share this with everybody in real time. So like, you say Supertramp, Alex Supertramp, Chris McCandless from the book Into the Wild,
Yes.
or the movie Into the Wild, his story. It was amazing to me, a huge inspiration coming out. And I always wonder what it would have been like if he did that now. We would be able to see it in real time. And I love that I get to share this with people in real time, doing a similar kind of thing.
And had he had social media then like you do now, I mean, who's to say? Maybe he would still be with us. I mean, people would have known where he was going and where he was at, and then when, communication broke, maybe someone could have gotten to him. So I'm sure there's many blood.
Yeah.
It's something it's sad to consider, but I mean, what's your opinion on that?
I mean, you never know, I mean, it definitely couldn't have hurt the situation at all. At least to know, hey, I'm going here. Someone could have at least known where to get him, because he was up there for 6 weeks, something crazy like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Have you witnessed, as far as what you're comfortable with sharing anyway, have you witnessed anyone sustain severe injuries while getting on or off a train, or have you happened upon any situations, that was shortly after an accident has happened? I mean, what have you personally encountered?
So I've never seen a fatality, and I know it's only a matter of time. I try to keep myself mentally prepared for that, that would, it's going to wear on me a lot. It's not going to be a happy day. But I've seen some injuries. I've seen usually someone showing off or, drinking or intoxicated with other substances trying to get on a train and stuff. And I'm not anyone's parent, so I can't really talk them out of it. I try, but it is what it is. But I've seen people shatter bones. I did see someone get hit by a train. They're standing between the cars. We call it the red zone. You're not supposed to do that. And they're standing between the cars. They actually got hit by the train when it was moving, and I got to yank them out right at the last second before they went under the train. So there's definitely these moments where like you see how unforgiving this moving machinery is. And that's why I always like to advocate for people not to come out and do what I do. Like there's an inherent danger in this always present.
And those trains move with such force and weight. I mean, there's no way the conductors would even know that they'd even hit someone. I mean, it
would be 900 miles away when they do a maintenance check and they see the remains,
If. I'm sure you've heard, with your travels and everything, I'm sure, people have shared horror stories. You might even, train hoppers might even have their own, urban legends, so to speak. But I'm sure you've heard horror stories of injuries and accidents, even if you haven't experienced yourself. Is there any that stick out in your mind?
There's a lot of people. I've never seen this personally. I don't mean to drag the whole mood down.
No.
But there's a lot of times that train riders appreciate that. Yeah, there's a lot of times train riders will be on a train and they'll see someone, going to, end their life, and they watch it all unfold in terror, and you can't do anything to stop it because the train's moving. There's nothing you can do. There's no emergency brake.
Wow. I see what you meant. No, but I mean, I guess the right person or the wrong person, without support and human interaction like you're fortunate enough to have with social media and everything, I could see how weeks, months stacked on top of each other of being alone. I could see where, people like that could end up becoming victims of severe depression and end up, taking drastic actions. I mean, it's surely not all glamour.
Oh yeah, without a doubt. And that's the thing too, I'll bump into people that have been riding solo for 2 or 3 years, and you can tell there's something different You know, like they're kind of like a rogue animal at that point, you know?
It changes you.
Yeah. There'll be, not like in necessarily negative way, but the social skills just aren't there anymore, you know?
That's
It's like an unrefined skill.
it's a primitive animalistic side of us coming back out, you know, that most of us suppress because we do interact socially.
Yeah, but it is cool too because they kind of just focus to the point. You know, like they're talking to me for a reason. They usually want to trade gear or something like that or get some information. They get what they need and then they're back off doing their own thing. It's called ITA or I travel alone. So at the end of a conversation, if I'm like, hey, do you want to go, run to the gas station? I'll grab you some food. And they're like ITA. I go, okay, have a good one. It means I travel alone and they're trying to leave, you know.
They're politely saying thank you, but no thank you.
Exactly. And I say that to people all the time too. Like I don't really camp out with other people because, security issues.
Like, hey, I like you, but I don't want you tagging along.
Yeah. Add me on Facebook. We'll talk on Facebook.
Wow. Now, as far as the freedom part of it goes, when I had met you on TikTok and I was talking to you about this, I mean, that's part of what drew me to your story is, a lot of people talk about freedom in society, especially today's society, considering the climate of everything. Freedom is on the forefront of everyone's mind, maybe perhaps now more than it has been in many, many years. And after listening to you tell your story and interacting with you, I realized that you are experiencing true freedom right now today. I mean, you don't appear to be tied down to anything. You have no, I guess, weights pulling you in any, or gravity pulling you in any certain direction. You truly appear to be a free man in every sense of the word. You can literally get up, go wherever you want, whenever you want, without having to check with anyone, and just be free and see the country for what it is, and parts of the country that most of us don't get to see. We don't get to see those beautiful landscapes and stuff. And was there ever a point? I mean, do you agree that you have that level of freedom? And if so, what point was it when you realized, hey, I'm free? It's like, holy shit, it actually dawned on you.
I kind of struggle with that on a regular basis because I can't define the word freedom. So if you ask me what freedom means to me, I kind of will just shrug my shoulders and then try to figure it out real quick. It's a damn nice feeling though, to see all those things like you mentioned. I get to see wilderness untouched by man in probably 50 years, and get to like hang out in really cool like creeks and rivers and stuff that no one can get to unless your freight train happened to stop at a random area. And it's really cool like that. The first 3 months of me doing this, I had no idea what I was doing. It was more anxiety and getting used to it. And then that last 2 months was exactly like you said, like I can just grab my bag and go to a train yard and I'll be out of there that day, So I definitely have a lot less to worry about, I should say, because no matter what happens to me in life from this point forward, as long as I got the bag on my back, as long as I have a sleeping bag and tarp, everything else will work out,
That is truly amazing, man. It really is. And in many ways, I mean, sure, freedom is deeper than that. It is. And, like you said, freedom's different for everyone. And even for myself, I have different explanations and definitions of freedom, but in many ways, many aspects, I mean, I do consider you free. I mean, I kind of envy you, and I know that you won't do it for other reasons, and I respect that. But just to reiterate, it's like there's a part of me that was serious when I offered, to pay you as a guide to take me with you for a month or two. It's just so I could experience that freedom that you do. It's just, to me, it's like that would be a life experience that would make life having worth lived, when the day comes, that, I'm laying on my deathbed, and I look back and it's like, okay, I made friends, I had loved ones, I accomplished this and I accomplished that, but I was never really free. So, I mean, in many ways, I mean, you're envied like that. And I think that's, whether people realize it or not, that's a lot of the reasons why you're followed. I mean, because people always want to know, what's this guy going to do next? And it's because we don't have that freedom.
I get a lot of people that hit me up and say like they're living vicariously through me, and I'm like, great, because like I said too, like I got to watch all these different people doing what I do before I came out. So I love that I got to return that favor and like instill that on people. But I was like to say too, one of my biggest fears is inspiring someone to come out and then they come out right at training and get hurt. You know, I don't know how I'm going to react to that, to be honest with you.
Well, for what it's worth,
but like definitely, like I never want to be paid for a guy.
Sure,
you know?
sure. For what it's worth, I'm not going out there by myself, so you don't have to worry about that with me.
Yeah.
So that's the only way.
That immediately makes you smarter than me.
Well, I mean, it may, but you know, maybe it's the chains holding me back that you don't have. So I guess it depends on how you look at it. But I mean, rest assured, you're not going to motivate me enough to where it's like I'm just going to run out there screaming with my tongue flapping out of my mouth and my arms in my ears, I'm free. I mean, it's not going to happen. So
that was pretty much me when I first came out. I'm not going to lie.
Something likened to a dog hanging its head out the window, right?
Yeah, exactly. That's me on a freight train.
Man, I couldn't imagine.
Every time, even now.
Now, what I would give to be able to pick through the photographs and scenery in your mind's eye to see the things that you've seen, you know, the things that even you don't have a picture of. It's, you know, that you had mentioned, you know, you get to see scenery untouched by man, you know, and I think that's what's so exhilarating about it is everywhere we look. I mean, it's a concrete jungle. I mean, I live out in the middle of nowhere. You know, I'm broadcasting to you from a remote cornfield in west central Indiana right now. But I mean, I look out the window and I'm still surrounded by windmills and highways. You know, I mean, so I can't escape it. You know, and I think maybe that's the only way you can really escape it is from the railroad.
It definitely helps getting away from the highways for a minute, for sure. Especially like, how many Dollar Generals does one city need, you know?
Man, there's 3 within a 6-mile radius of me, and I live in the middle of nowhere.
I've been in the smallest little farm towns, yeah, like legit in the middle of nowhere. And it's like, what am I, like my phone will be dead. I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to do for resupplies. I'm like, I was walking in a random direction, and then you see a giant yellow sign down the street. Like, oh yeah, there's a Dollar General.
Yeah. Speaking of
there's 2 cows and a Dollar General.
So speaking of which, I mean, how do you go about resupplying? I mean, how do you go about getting supplies and stuff from these, you know, stores when you come across them? I mean, how does one, other than bartering, as you had mentioned, I mean, how does one on the railroad make at least enough money to buy the things that you can't trade? And also 2-part question is, how do you always make sure that you're around electricity to charge your phone? What are the precautions that you take to make sure that you're going to be covered in those ways?
So power-wise, I have 3 power banks now that'll last me 2 or 3 days no matter what. But I've been out and had no power bank, and like you always, like no matter what, you'll find a way to make things work. You kind of develop another, like a 6th sense just to find outlets, like behind churches, the bottom of billboards, you'll find them, you know, in front of the stores, you'll be supplying, you can probably plug in real quick and then sit away from it so they don't know what you're doing so you can charge your stuff up, you know, like all little tricks of the road kind of fall into all that. When it comes to food, I work. So I'll work for a week and then I'll travel for a month. If I need gear, I'll work for 2 weeks and I travel for a month. You know, sometimes it doesn't line up well. Sometimes I've had to do things to, you know, just get food for the day that probably aren't the most optimal, but you got to do what you got to do in a situation. You know, I'm not much of a beggar. I'm not good at it. So I usually just jump behind a dumpster at 7-Eleven. You know, I've done it a few times and got to do what you got to do.
So you're saying that at the bottom of billboards, there's little plug-ins where I can walk up to them and plug something in?
Yeah, you're looking at about one out of like 10 or 12 electronic billboards with at least it has the lights on top. We'll have an outlet at the bottom of it.
That's pretty good odds, though. I mean, considering how prevalent billboards are.
Yeah, especially most of the time you're near a highway somewhere, you know.
Wow. I would have never known that. So I guess I learned something from you. But I'm sure
it's super handy.
I'm sure you've mastered the skill of packing light. Can you give me a rundown of what, say, a 3 to 5 day bags full of gear, fully stocked up and ready to head out? Can you give me a rundown of what you consider would be an ideal bag full of gear for hitting the railroad for, say, three plus days?
3+ days, it's not going to be much different than a 3-day hiking bag, like a hiking gear setup. I do carry a 5-gallon Yeti bucket with me, and I put a seat on top, so the lid for that is like a seat, and that way I have a comfortable place to sit no matter what. You know, if I'm on rugged terrain, if I'm on a train, I always have a seat. But all you need is a tarp and a sleeping bag. That's all you need to survive. Everything else is a luxury item or extra. You know, so I have a sleeping mat. You don't need a sleeping mat. I just like it because it keeps the conduction away. So my sleeping bag will work a little bit better. I have a tarp, but I also have an extra tarp as a ground tarp to put underneath so that way condensation doesn't get on my sleeping bag or my mat as much. You know, it's always good to have a quick, small tarp too, easy to grab. Besides that, it's a lot of luxury stuff. You know, chargers, power banks. You know, I keep a beard trimmer so that way I keep my appearances up. You know, I cut my own hair as I'm out. Like whenever I'm out and, you know, I can get a quick moment and I can actually charge it up. You know, I'll cut my hair and trim my beard and stuff. You know, all my toiletries. My first aid kit's pretty big. I got some like Dermabond in there, like the super glue for skin, just because I don't know if I'm going to be in the middle of nowhere when an emergency happens. So I got to be covered for a lot there. So when I was through hiking, my first aid kit probably weighed, I don't know, 0.1 of a pound. Now it weighs like 1.25 pounds, you know.
I guess that speaks volumes for the importance of and necessities of having a quality first aid kit then. Most of us...
yeah, because I might be somewhere without service on my phone, you know, and how the hell am I going to, you know, get help out there?
Most of us take, you know, like a regular Band-Aid for granted. In fact, many times, you know, in your house, you cut your finger, most of us won't even use a Band-Aid. But I would imagine that being out there, you know, rusty, dirty boxcars and everything, you know, even the smallest cut, something you can't ignore. I mean, you have that in those situations, you have to wear a Band-Aid. Would that be correct?
That's a great point. I might not necessarily cover it up for more than a few hours, but the moment you get cut and you're on rusted steel with train grease and diesel everywhere, it's instantly infected. So the moment you get cut, you need to start fighting that infection. I've never had a really bad one because I stay on top of it and I'm pretty good at it. At noticing that, you know, I need to be cleaning it out on a regular basis and stuff like that. But you got to think too, like what I do is dirty living. You know, I'm not in a house, I'm outside. So no matter what, even if I get a cut just walking through some forest real quick, it's going to get infected at some point because it's going to get dirty. So covering it up while I'm traveling does help.
Nice. Next time I get a cut and I put on a Band-Aid, I promise I'm going to think about that part of your story. and I'll hope that you're okay and you're not needing the Band-Aids that you have. Because it is true, we do take them for granted when we're in a, you know, a semi-clean home. You know, it's you know, we'll wash it off, you know, wrap a rag around it till the bleeding stops and we're done. You know, but that's something you can't do in your situation. So you probably go through that kind of stuff quite a bit. Now
especially you got to think about reopening the cut too. Like if you reopen it, because I'm constantly jumping over stuff. I'm hopping fences. I'm jumping on trains. I'm jumping off trains. I'm doing stuff, you know, processing wood for camp and stuff like that. You can reopen a cut very easily. So if it's covered, you kind of give yourself that little bit of a barrier too.
Right. Or something as simple as a sprained ankle. I mean, that'd be a life changer.
Yeah, you don't want to be vulnerable in your tarp for days on end, you know?
For sure. Now, this next question is a little bit of a 2-part question. I apologize for that, but I have a lot of those. That's kind of my forte. Is I love throwing out 2- and 3-part questions. So, but food. I would imagine canned goods get pretty heavy. You've already mentioned twice the importance of weight of a kit, so I know that canned goods are probably going to be a rare item for you, and if you do carry them, they're probably one of the first things you eat, so that takes that weight out of your bag. But you know, other items are going to, you know, spoil if not refrigerated and stuff. So, I mean, what do you do for food? What seems to work best for being out on the open road like that? And for the items that have to be cooked, can you run us down that procedure? Because it's not like you have a stainless steel stove and carry a skillet around unless you're going to throw a curveball at me and tell me you do. So I'd really like to hear how this works.
I do not. So whenever I'm resupplying for food, I try to think for 2 days. Like it's a humble life. I'm only getting food per day, but all my expirable stuff, if I get a yogurt, I got 2 hours to eat that. You know, if I am cooking meat or getting meat for a campfire at the end of the night, then I got to cook that within 4 to 5 hours. I really got to worry about bacteria. So I try to get that last minute, or I try to just cook it as soon as possible. Peanut butter is a lifesaver. I have a jar of peanut butter right now sitting in my bucket. That's like my emergency food. If anything ever happens, at least I have that jar of peanut butter. and my emergency water is right next to it too. But I guess a lot of nuts, a lot of stuff that doesn't go bad. Canned stuff, like you said, I'll grab 1 or 2 tops, and then I'm going to eat those first to get the can out of the way. But also, you got Sunkist makes it started with the tuna, Starkist. I think it might be Starkist.
Comes in little aluminum pouches.
They got those little packages.
Yes.
So they have chicken, turkey, all that stuff, and I'll carry 4 or 5 of those for a couple of days. Because it's low sodium. It's high protein, get me some energy, some decent amount of calories. I might even throw some olive oil on it just to give it like a little bit more oomph in the calorie department. But I've been in bad spots where you need to just eat nothing but fast food for 2 days. So that's all that's available, Well, but for cooking set wise, I usually I have a titanium pot, and then I have an isobutane stove that it sits on. That's how I make my coffee. That's how I make a soup. I usually make my soup from scratch, a little hobo stew action. If I can't do a fire, it's great in a pan.
So if
I can do a fire, like once a week, I'll try to do one up.
So you are again going to make me eat my words. You're good at this. So you actually do carry a little pot around you. Now, would that be something similar to like, I guess what the old military or maybe even Boy Scouts called like mess kits? Is that something that you have? Is that something that would be good? I mean, small, lightweight, comes with several different utensils, cooking plate, forks, a little cup. Is that something that would be beneficial to someone such as yourself, or are you suited for what you got?
Some people carry that. Some of my counterparts carry the whole kit. It's too heavy for me. Like, I'm not a huge weight guy. Like, I don't mind carrying a few extra ounces here and there. But when it comes to my cook kit in particular, I just do the pot. I have 1 spork, and then that's it. That's my entire cook kit there. Then I have my hip knife I'll use to cut meat if I have to, or cut anything.
You've really got yourself an enormous fan base. I've seen your fans on TikTok, and I tell you what, I don't want to take the spotlight away from you, so you kind of break it in half just real quick for a brief moment. And your fans in the chat, I mean, they're showing you a lot of love. You seem to be really well respected for what you do, and a genuinely kind guy. I don't mean to be too mushy on you or anything like that, but I promise I'm not flirting with you. But I find it really, really cool and admirable that people that are showing this amount of loyalty to you. I think that's completely awesome. And do you get that?
I was worried when it first kind of blew up. Like, when it first kind of blew up, I was concerned that because I had a small base, right, and they were really kind and genuine people, and they always just had words for support and a very caring community. And I thought I'd be losing that when it kind of blew up. And come to find out, I just have a whole bunch of kind, caring people. Like, the community that's growing behind me is just so goddamn nice and amazing. And I'm lucky. Like, there's not a toxic bone in any of their bodies, and it's great.
You obviously love. I've got about 3 more points I'd like to cover, if that's okay with you. If we're running short on your time, this is your schedule. As I mentioned, I don't want to be disrespectful, so let me know if we are, and I'll cut a couple of these out. But I've got just about 3, maybe 4 more points I'd like to cover before we open up to see if anyone has any questions. I'm
personally not in a rush.
Okay.
You take your time,
Okay.
Go through whatever you want to go through.
Okay, good. I just want to be respectful of you and your time.
Appreciate that.
Do you know where you're going next? I know that I remember not in your last live, because I saw that you were on live like a day or two ago, but I wasn't able to join it. But your live before that, I had joined in. I was in there briefly, and I remember you talking about you were getting ready to leave, and then you had mentioned that you're going to do so shortly after this podcast interview. You're currently staying with family right now. Do you know where you're going next? I mean, is there somewhere particular? Or
yeah, I'm going to Jacksonville, Florida. From here, I'm going to grab an Amtrak out of here because I don't want to ride trains in the snow. It's like a death sentence.
Sure.
So I'm going to grab an Amtrak out of Boston.
You're still riding
to Jacksonville,
trains,
Florida. I'll be there. Yeah, true that. I'm just doing it legally, which is boring.
You're cursed now. Whether you want to or not, you're riding trains. Continue.
Yeah. It's like purgatory, just riding trains forever, which is great for me. Yeah, I'll be in Jacksonville, Florida, somewhere between probably the 8th to 11th, because I'm leaving here between the 7th and 10th. And then I'm going to ping pong and zigzag all the way across the country and get to the West Coast from the Atlantic.
I'm almost sad to see you go, and I'm not even watching you off. No, I've really enjoyed our conversation.
I'll be back in Indiana. I had a good time in Indiana.
Well, as I had mentioned, when you're in Indiana again, hit me up, man, and maybe I can hook you up with a few items, and I don't know, maybe let you charge your power banks or something. Who knows? Maybe buy you lunch or something, depending on when and where.
Oh yeah, and if I feel like more an accomplished rider, and I feel like I can safely do it, I'll take you out on a train, man.
Man, that would be so awesome. You know what? And the missus would love to get rid of me. She'd look at you and she'd be like, here's his credit card. Get him the hell out of here. She'd even give you the PIN number. She'd be like, get him out of here. Just let me know where I got to pick him up. I'm not joking. She would. She would love the time off. I mean, we get along great, but we've got one of those relationships, where it's like we enjoy our time apart. I mean, she goes to Colorado to see family. I mean, I go to Georgia for a vacation. I mean, but then again, she goes with me, she would enjoy the time apart. So she'd be rooting for you if you were volunteering to take me out of here. So.
See, I feel like that's a crucial part to any healthy relationship is take some time away from each other. It gives you time to miss each other,
For sure. Yeah, speaking of family, and if this is a touchy subject for you, by all means, please, just say, hey, can we move on to something else? Because as I mentioned, I got other topics. But, I've almost going to ask someone such as yourself who travels like you do, and stuff, you've clearly got family because you're spending family with holidays. So, as I kind of watched your story as you were trying to get home for the holidays, and you were worried about making it and stuff. And as the more I watched, the more intrigued I was. And finally, it's like, I have got to interact with this guy. But, I've got to wonder, it's like, how hard is it for your family to accept what you do? Are they accepting of it? What kind of complications is it created for you? I mean, are they supportive? Can you kind of take us down that road as much as you're comfortable with?
Yeah, very much so. So initially I was kind of worried when you started asking that question because like when I signed up for social media for this, I have consent for people to kind of invade my privacy a little bit. Where my family doesn't, so I have to be real careful.
Well, I try to be respectful.
I don't want me to talk about particulars within my family. Yeah, no, that was well worded, and I have no problem.
Thank you.
I was just a little worried at first, but yeah,
I'm a
super supportive,
man.
and
I'm a professional, so
yeah, that you are. So like, whenever I talk to a good example, whenever I talk to my parents, I'll talk to them every 2 or 3 days, and I update them whenever I'm leaving or going somewhere. They're one of the 3 people I update with my constant updates, so people know where I'm at in case there's ever an emergency and I can't reach anybody. They at least know what city and what area I'm in. But every time I talk to them, that they always want to reiterate that they love what I'm doing. They're happy that I'm not doing the workaholic thing. They're happy. I've never smiled more in my life, and my family can tell that, So they're really excited for what I'm doing, but they always say, I don't know about those trains, though, because they know there's an inherent danger with them,
Sure. I mean,
so fully supportive, but still apprehensive.
I would be worried if one of my family members were out doing that. I mean, I'd be envious, but I mean, yeah, sure, there'd be a part of me that was worried. So your family's kind of in the same position I am then. I mean, they're worried, but at the same time, they see the happiness in you, and that makes them accepting of what you do?
Yeah, very much so. They were just worried at first, but the moment I hit my stride and got a good rhythm, and then I felt comfortable being out, they kind of followed suit. They kind of like, once they saw that I was enjoying what I was doing, they're enjoying it for me as well.
I'm enjoying it for you. I mentioned too, back to the food thing real quick. Are MREs a big thing for you? I mean, is that something that you find that are useful? Are they too bulky for the low amount of food that you get in them? How do these work into, your travels?
So I love MREs. Like you said, they're bulky, but you can have one for the whole day, and that could pretty much be your calories for the day. For most of them, run to 1,500, 2,000 calories for one box. But that's if you're going to eat everything inside of them. Because I'll eat pretty much goddamn anything. I'm not a picky eater. But I've bumped into some MREs where I'm like, this is borderline inedible. Some of them are really good, but you don't know if it's going to be good until you open that box,
Sure. I've eaten my share of them, and sometimes it's like, okay, these M&Ms are edible, but the rest is going in the trash. So, yeah, no,
yeah. Like, this is not lasagna. I don't care what that box says. This is not lasagna.
Right. Yep, exactly. Now, when you're traveling, of course, carrying a smartphone would make this, way easier. Do you take a lot of pictures and a lot of video, or do you find that chews up too much space? Obviously you take some video because you said you have a YouTube editor. But what about the picture aspect? I mean, do you take a lot of pictures? Are you saving them with all these things you've seen? Do you find that these travels as a train car hopper, is it bringing out like an inner photographer in you? I mean, I know it would me. I couldn't help but to take pictures of all kinds of stuff. I mean, how has that played into your travels?
So very, very rarely and few and far between, I'll bump into a spot and I'll be like, this is a picture, and I'll take a photo of it. I mean, maybe like once a month, twice a month tops. My main thing is video. I love okay, that's a good shot. This is a good angle and stuff like that, which is an eye I didn't have when I first came out. This is a skill I've been developing just as I go, with no training whatsoever, which is why it's so bad. But, whenever I send stuff to my editor, I only have 20 gigs of available space on my phone. So what I do is I do all my videos for the week, and every day I'm sending that to my editor. And where I send it is through Facebook Messenger because we know each other personally. Mm-hmm. So it lives there forever. So the moment I put it on Facebook Messenger between me and him, I can go and delete it. And then when I do the TikToks, I go back and I'll pick out the videos I want and re-download them on my phone. But I realistically, with all the video I shoot, I only have maybe 2 or 3 days of room on my phone, and then I have to start deleting stuff and going back and sussing through it.
That's sad.
But I don't do a lot of photography. Yeah, I mean, someday I'll get a better system and a better workflow.
Man, I would love to supply you with a couple of SD cards. So we're going to touch base again after this, and I would love to supply you with a couple of SD cards because of those pictures and the scenery and the things that you see. I mean, once that's gone, I mean, it's gone forever. When you decide, hey, I'm done doing this, I mean, you'll never get that opportunity again. I would imagine that you would wish that you had them.
Yeah, it definitely wouldn't hurt. At least be able to recall things, to be able to go back and grab stuff from a month ago or 2 months ago. I can do it now, but like I said, I got to scroll through all my Facebook Messenger stuff, grab the video, and bring it back out. It's not a huge pain, mm-hmm. but it's not super easy either.
Here in a few minutes, after this next subject here, I have a feeling that I'm going to bring up something that may make you decide to want to do that, or at least consider it. But my next question is where you're going next. You've been doing this for at least 5 months now plus. Is there any inclination of how much longer you're going to be riding trains? I mean, is there an end to the story? I mean, are you approaching the final chapter? I mean, or do you even know?
I just started. I feel like I've barely scratched the surface on checking out all the U.S. This is a beautiful country we live in. People are amazing from all walks of life, all different backgrounds, politically and religiously. Everyone has been so kind to me while I'm on the road. And on top of that, like I said, I just barely scratched the surface. I've only been to 30 plus states, and I didn't really explore all of them for me to even feel like I said I was there long enough to be able to, knock it off the list. So years. It's going to be years before I even start slowing down. And even when I slow down, I'm going to keep doing it. It's just going to be less frequent.
That is beautiful. That is beautiful. Have you considered, and maybe you might want to, taking more pictures for the purpose of, but taking more pictures, maybe taking notes of your travels, pinning, ideas down and, experiences down and stuff so that you can recall them more accurately later. But have you considered maybe towards the end of your travels, maybe publishing a book filled with pictures, photography pictures and stories of your travels and stuff, and becoming in many senses an author, kind of like an autobiography? Is that something that you've considered? Because I'm sure with your fan base, that's a book that would sell.
That's you're definitely not the first one to bring up the book. I don't feel like I have enough experience to even write a quarter of a book at this point. So maybe down the line, but you have a really good point about the pictures. That would be a great companion to writing a book if it ever came to that.
I'm envisioning
right now
already.
It's just me doing monologues on YouTube and stuff.
Yeah, I'm envisioning already.
Yeah, you have a damn good
That's
point.
definitely a hardcover book. That's definitely a full-size book filled with pictures. You can have footnotes, different parts of your stories, different chapters and stuff. I mean, and who knows, after having traveled for so long with only having odd jobs and here and there, maybe that'd be something that could help you financially transition back into more of a financially secular life, when you do decide, that you've come to the end of your rail line.
Yeah, definitely. That's a really good point. Because I never really thought about how to apply any kind of photography or anything like that. Because it kind of seemed like, well, if I'm doing YouTube and TikTok, all I need is videos. But that's a really good point for the long term.
Yeah, that's just something to consider. Well, I mean, that's basically, what I have, those are the questions that I've had lined out. Are there any other stories, any things that, that our communication with each other, going back and forth has made you think of that you haven't gotten a chance to express? Is there anything that you would like to say at this time?
I'm trying to think of something off the seam of my pants here. I don't really have anything coming up, but I would like to say thank you for having me on. Man, this is so much fun. I love that I get to be in an area where you're driving the conversation. It's not me just trying to figure out what to say. Thank you, man.
A little bit of a break from the norm, huh?
Oh, it's nice. It's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah. This will be, I probably won't have it up until later on tomorrow. Of course, I'm going to have to take the audio from this podcast. I'm going to have to remaster it. I got some audio software, run it through there, get it remastered, bring all the volume levels up and everything. But I will definitely have it online, and on that website link that I had sent you, it does allow for free downloads, and don't charge for my downloads, so you can download it to your phone. You can provide a download link to your friends, if they'd like to listen to it. They weren't able to make it tonight. And again, it's free for them as well. So, if you'd like to maybe even come back to this story later at some point in the future. But as your travels progress, I definitely want to have you back on the show at least one more time, maybe a couple of more times, just to hear, the new things that you've encountered, the more in-depth stories that you can tell as your travels have become more expanded and the more things that you've seen.
Oh, definitely. I'll be back.
All right. Now, we don't have a full room, but I am going to open up the panel at this time. If anybody would like to call in, you're more than welcome to do so. Just hit that little telephone icon down there in the bottom of your telephone screen, or one of the gray area call-in buttons up top. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask Troy yourself, I'm going to open it up for a few minutes, see if anybody has any questions. Chels, if you're still in here, I know you got questions. Anybody can call in and ask any questions they'd like, and we'll give you a chance to speak with Troy one-on-one. Cool. It is New Year's Eve, though, so I'm actually surprised that we even got – here we go. We got some people calling in. All right. Hello, welcome to the show. Who do we have?
Hi, this is Cece.
Hello, Cece.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. Troy?
Hey, Cece. Yep. What's up, Cece? How are you?
Good.
Cece, you been following the show?
Yeah.
Now, do you follow Troy on TikTok as well?
Yeah, we're friends.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Cece's like one of my moderators. We're super close.
So you're here to make sure that I play nice with him then, right?
Oh, yeah, totally.
You're here for emotional support.
Yeah, they definitely run the show.
Yeah, you're here for emotional support and to rough me up if I get out of hand.
Mm-hmm. I may only be like 5'5", but I'm an ankle biter.
There you go. Did you learn anything about Troy tonight, that maybe considerations or viewpoints or aspects that he hasn't covered or you haven't thought of previously when joining his lives on TikTok? I mean, has there been a new enlightenment for you through the interactions and conversations that we've had?
Not particularly, but I did have one question for him. I was wondering, before he went out and did everything, even with all the research that he had done, is there one thing he wish he had known before he left?
Oh, that's really good. You're making me look bad.
Good question. I wish I knew my rideables more. I wish I knew what train cars I can get on before getting on them, because that was the hardest part when I first came out. I had to take rocks from the train tracks and throw it onto the car to see if it had a floor or not. So I'd have to sit there, chuck it, and then if it hit the ground, I can't ride that. If it hit a steel plate, I know I can get on it.
That's a thing?
And that's just extra time while I'm in a train yard. Yeah, some of them don't have floors, some of them do.
And,
oh, wow.
And of course, you can't see that in the dark looking into a dark boxcar.
Yeah, even during the day, it's kind of hard too because it's not even just box cars. You got like hopper and grainer cars and the shipping containers, the intermodal ones, and you don't know if it has a floor until you climb up that ladder and take a look. And like the less time you're in the train yard, the better. But I've definitely got it's called, I don't know if I can say this word, but I'm gonna say it anyway.
Say anything you want.
It's called riding suicide when you. Oh, cool. It's called riding suicide when you get on a train car that has no floor and you're sitting on angle steel. I did it once and I'll probably never do it again. But it's super sketchy. There's no floor. If you fall asleep, you just fall off.
Oh wow, that's scary.
I fall off the couch while sleeping. I have a hard time staying on the couch. I know I'd fall through. I know I'd have to kneel.
Yeah, a lot of people do it. I'm just not one of those people.
I'd have to wrap my suspenders around a hook or something because I know I'd fall through.
I'd have to duct tape myself with Gorilla Tape or something.
For sure. For sure. That had reminded me, though, her question and your answer had reminded me about a comment that somebody else had left in the chat earlier. How big of a risk is it of a door closing while you're in a boxcar? Do you get locked in? Do you prefer door closed? I mean, does it play a factor? Run us through that, if you would.
There is no way out. If that door closes on you when you're inside, there's no way out. People have passed away because you could be there for weeks, and then if you have no cell phone service or your phone's dead or you don't have a phone, all these factors can lead into a really bad situation. So what I do is I'll jump onto the boxcar and I'll take a railroad spike with me, and then I'll hammer that railroad spike into the door where the rail is, where the door slides. And I'll do 2 usually just to make sure. But you jam that in there, the door won't go anywhere. But there are, situations where that will come flying out and stuff like that. It's kind of, not the best situation. But if it's raining out, the boxcar is what I'm getting in.
Wow, I couldn't imagine how scary that. I could not imagine waking up and seeing that door closed. I mean, you almost know how the story's going to end. Then is what you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, you can start banging on the side and hope a worker hears you, or you can try to make a phone call out.
Or another traveler.
If your phone has service. You bump into them so infrequently, it'd be hard to rely on that,
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've talked about this, and I've seen other people talk in your chats and stuff. Everybody's an attorney on social media, which I'm sure you've become well aware of. Everybody knows the law.
Oh my God!
Everybody's an expert. Which makes me wonder where are all the novices at? So. But if everybody's an expert, it seems like there'd be no demand for experts. But everybody talks about, it's a federal felony. It's a crime. You can get you arrested. I mean, with what you're comfortable with, can you take us through the accuracies of this? I mean, are any of these, rumors or, speculations or just bad guesses on parts of these people, or is it a real federal felony? I mean, what break us down on the facts from what you're aware of.
Gotcha. I'm gonna try to do this in like 2 little statements. The first being it's a federal misdemeanor, so the penalties that I carried are a little bit more than jaywalking, and the only reason it's more than jaywalking is because if you get caught in North Platte, if you get caught in Mobile, North Platte, Nebraska, or Mobile, Alabama, or sometimes Las Vegas, and then a few of the high security yards, Livonia and North Baltimore, Ohio, if you get caught in those yards, they might prosecute you to the full extent, which means you could be doing 7 to 10 days in jail. You can pay $10,000. I'd just rather do the time. I've never gotten caught like that, though. So I've been caught 5 times. I got away twice, and I got caught 3 times. So when I got caught, the worst penalty I've ever gotten is they took pictures of my tattoos. They took pictures of me. They took my ID, and they gave me a warning, and then gave me directions out of the train yard. The best one I ever got was in Montgomery, where that railroad cop, they're federal agents. The railroad cop sees me in the train yard. Daylight came up. I got caught. Nothing I can do. And we chatted for 45 minutes. He never even asked my name. He pulled his phone out, and I showed him my YouTube channel, and he's a subscriber now, commenting on my YouTube videos.
That is awesome. That
right?
is awesome.
So it's not a huge penalty. I get a little bit of an easier time than a lot of my counterparts because I keep up my appearances. It should be the other way around, but it's not. But I have a little bit of an easier time because I'm articulate and I keep my appearances up the best I can. But yeah, most of the time it's, hey, like they say, what are you doing here? And my first answer is, I'm trying to leave. Is this the way out down here? And then they give you directions out. They don't want to do the paperwork. I'm not bothering anybody. It's usually a pretty gentlemanly encounter.
That almost gives me the impression that they're, like you said, that, I mean, they don't want to do the paperwork, but they would be more inclined to enforce those laws, so to speak, and delve out those punishments on people that are causing destruction to property, maybe spray painting, causing a problem, being stupid and running a risk of getting hurt, those types of travelers and stuff. But the ones that are just trying to get out of there quietly and peacefully and not cause any problems, they're more likely to let you go than, at least from your experience.
Most definitely. And like, it is my own personal experience. Like people might have a completely different, reaction out there from people and stuff. This is solely what happened to me so far. But if I have the chance to run, I'm taking it.
Well, sure. Just to let you know, though, I'm a little bit of a big guy. And if I ever do go out with you, you're just going to have to leave me, man. It's going to be one of the situations where I'm going to be saying, save yourself. Go, save yourself.
Wait. It's leave no man behind.
I'll have to sign a disclaimer
if you get caught, we get caught.
Yeah, besides, you'll have my debit card, man. I'm going to depend on you to bond me out. So just go, save yourself, man. Save yourself. But
that's really why you got it.
Most of the time, if they're hitting you with any kind of penalty, it's going to be a fine. It's like $150 to $200. Most people don't even pay them. And sometimes they disappear. If I ever get one, I'll pay it so that way I can go back to that county, the warrant out and all that.
Sure. Well, I'm not saying that you would use your social media following like that, but with the loyalty I've seen in your social media following, I'm going to guess to venture to guess that they would probably be more than willing to help you out with a cost like that.
Yeah, I try to avoid.
I know. I've witnessed that with you.
I mean?
You don't even like getting the little gifts on TikTok. I've noticed that about you, which is humble. And I think that's another reason why people are drawn to you and have become so loyal, though.
Well, I noticed when I was doing the Hey, I'm Trying to Get Home for Christmas, leg of the adventure, people were going out of their way to offer me rides, plane tickets, bus tickets, train tickets. And well, if every time I'm in a bind, which is going to happen a lot, I'm always going to be in a position where I'm in a bad spot, need to dig myself out. I don't want to always run to TikTok for help. And I don't want people to feel like that's why I'm sharing that. In fact, I just want to document everything going on at all times. And I don't want that to sway people's, wallets ever.
Sure. No, I totally get that. No, but okay.
I think so.
Well, Cece, do you have any other questions? Anything that you'd like to throw in?
Nope, none that I can think of. Sorry.
No, you're fine. Now, I've been sharing your merch link in the chat like I said I would, but I know if I try to pronounce this, I'm going to butcher it. I don't want to do that. But I will add it to the podcast description once I do get this uploaded to my website so that your merch link will be a permanent part of the podcast description for this episode. Hopefully that'll help you out there.
Oh, cool. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. But for the people that will only be hearing it through download and stuff like that, if you'd like to go ahead and tell us what that merch link is, spell it out with all the // and hyphens and stuff like that. That way it's part of the audio as well. I'll be sure to keep it in during the editing.
Oh, cool. Okay. So, yeah, we have hats, T-shirts, hoodies, mugs, and stickers over at kaestreasures.com. That's going to be KAES treasures, all one word, .com /collections/anywhere, man. But if you can just get the kaestreasures.com, it's a quick couple clicks away to get to my merch.
I'll message you again sometime tomorrow afternoon or so after the episode's edited and everything and it's up, and I'll send you a link and stuff so that you can share that with your fans and so that you can download it for yourself as well. Maybe you'd like to reminisce and play it back while you're on your travels and stuff. And again, Troy, thank you for coming on, man. I'm truly honored to have you on here. It was very exciting for me. I was totally stoked when you confirmed the show with me yesterday. It it's kind of like one of those small dreams of mine. I mean, as I told you, I mean, I hopped a couple trains as a kid, but that was just going across town. I mean, nothing like what you do. I mean, it's totally fascinating. I've enjoyed your story. I want to have you back on when you have more to share with us. So please stay in touch if you would.
Oh, I definitely will. We'll have to exchange emails too, so we're not just communicating the way we've been doing it so far.
Absolutely, yeah.
But this has been so cool.
Yeah, well,
so this is my second interview. My first interview, some lady from a publication, Kristen Templeton, awesome lady, but she came up from Nougat Today, which is in Chattanooga. So she walked up to me and she's like, "Oh, I'm a publicist for this, for this online digital publication." I'm like, "Okay, cool." And then she asked me a few questions, and I just started talking. And then she left, and I'm like, oh, she probably didn't want to do the interview. That was the interview. So this has been such a breath of fresh air with you, like taking the reins and leading the conversation. Thank you, man.
Yeah, not a problem. I told you, man, I'm a professional. I'd at least play one on TV anyway. All right, well, Troy, Cece, if you're still in the room, and for everybody else that's coming in to support Troy into the chats, thank you so much for stopping by. The show will be available for free download on my Podbean website channel, which is the podfathershow.podbean.com. It will be episode number 17, I believe. You'll be able to get the complete audio as well as a link to Troy's merch in the description there, and we look forward to having Troy back on. Everybody, Happy New Year. Thank you for helping me get this year kicked off with a really awesome podcast interview. It's been an honor. Troy, you have yourself a good evening, and I will be in touch with you shortly through chat on TikTok to exchange emails.
Definitely, man. Definitely. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.